So today we're going to talk about purposeful meandering. And it's probably a topic that a lot of people who are watching right now are not familiar with. It's one that we made up. Purposeful meandering is a really powerful technique for personalities to tell stories with a purpose that doesn't give away where the story is going. And that's opposed to a concept that Mike pioneered, which is topic grazing. And you don't want to do topic grazing because it doesn't resonate, and you don't want to do purposeless meandering,
right,
which is just as bad as topic grazing. But there's a way that you can do topic grazing and make it work. And there's a way that you can do purposeful meandering and make it great. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Mike, why don't you summarize what's topic grazing all about? Tell us about topic grazing.
Yeah, topic grazing is where talent kind of just goes from thought to thought, without a specific purpose. Oftentimes it's stream of consciousness, hoping something sticks. I heard talent tell me, well, I was riffing there. We were kind of riffing on it, and it confuses the audience. It doesn't really tell a story. There's not really a purpose or a point for it. And what we find is the audience gets lost, they get frustrated, and they either mentally or physically tune out.
Yeah. So Andy, have you run across this with some of the talent that you're coaching?
Oh, yes. And they say exactly what Mike brought up, the riffing, and it was loosely related to the topic, but they don't realize how it just comes off as random and unnecessary. And stream of consciousness is a great way to describe it. I agree with that.
And if I find that usually when that happens, the content turns out that it's full of facts and information, but it's lacking in perspective or point of view. And a lot of times that happens, and riffing is exactly why that happens. Topic grazing happens because the content is poorly prepared. Because if you're planning on topic grazing and just throwing a topic on the table and hoping for something good to happen, and that you're going to riff until you hit on something that resonates, then you're going to just keep bouncing from one aspect of that story to another, to another, to another, and hoping that something lands. But it's not memorable. So we're going to show you some good examples of topic grazing. At first, we were going to play some bad examples of it, but we don't want you remembering the bad examples. So topic grazing can work. It can work with multiple topics as long as the host that's executing it is particularly skilled that way. And it takes a really good host who has a keen sense of when something is worn out, has run its course, and makes that gear shift to another topic, and the transitions are seamless. One personality that does a great job with this is Elvis Duran. I don't know if he still is doing the topic train feature that where he'll throw out 4 or 5 different topics, and he'll keep doing the topic train, and he's able to balance that and make sense out of it. But we don't recommend that you try this at home because a lot of shows will use it as an excuse to get out of show prep. I'm working with a show in San Francisco right now at KMVQ. It's called Big Bay Mornings. They had an example of this last week that I thought was absolutely terrific. Here's a great example of topic grazing, and listen as they take 3 or 4 different topics that aren't worthwhile on their own, but they strung them together in a break that I thought was really outstanding. So here's a good example of a bad idea. Topic grazing is a bad idea, but here's a good example of how this show made it work. And you'll hear how the host, Benny, is able to make these transitions seamless, and he's able to pull this all together.
Let's start the day with a little Would You Rather Wednesday. Would you rather eat a Tide Pod or a NyQuil chicken?
NyQuil chicken.
Just kidding.
Sorry.
Neither one. Neither one.
Neither.
Would you rather have one wish granted today, if you're waking up and like, damn, I really want blah, or you get 3 wishes in 10 years? One wish today or 3 in a decade?
Today. I don't know if I'm going to be alive in a decade.
Okay.
Today.
Okay. But you get 3 in 10 years.
I'm going with 3.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going with 3.
Banking on the fact you're going to make another 10.
Well, one of the wishes will be to make it to 10.
But you're not. Okay,
You're not there yet.
That doesn't make sense. Rethink that one.
Would you rather babysit a crying infant for an entire day or have an unwanted house guest for an entire week?
I'll take the baby. Give me the baby. Yes, give me the baby.
Yeah, 24 hours, I can do it.
I don't want somebody in my house for a week straight. Are you kidding?
Not even Mark.
No.
Especially not Mark.
No.
Would you rather live the rest of your life as a monk or followed continuously by paparazzi
Oh, I don't mind being followed by paparazzi. Bring it.
for the rest of your life?
I mean, come on. I'll invite them in. I'll make them NyQuil chicken.
I'll be a monk.
We'll do one last one. This is kind of Adam Levine themed. Would you rather have your partner want to name your baby after one of their exes or name it after a dinosaur?
Dinosaur! Dinosaur! Tyrannosaurus Rex! Come over here!
I guess you just call the baby Rex for short.
Come here, Rex.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't care either way. It's fine.
Wow.
If you name that baby after an ex, it's going to be just your baby.
Didn't Adam Levine? Yeah, he asked if he could name the baby Sumner.
First off, stupid name. But then you going to name the baby after not even an ex, a girl you were cheating with? No.
Yeah.
I don't know. He says it's a girl he was obsessed with, not cheating with. But I guess it depends on who you believe.
Yeah, well, he came out yesterday. He made a statement. We'll get into that inside your dirty on the 30, but I don't think anyone's buying it.
No.
I mean, I feel like he's going to do one of those classic Hollywood moves where he's going to blame it on drugs and alcohol, or at least alcohol. He may or may not go do a 12-step program or go into some sort of rehab or whatever. He's going to do something like that because that's how everybody saves their marriage in Hollywood. They say they did it because of alcohol. They stopped drinking. I mean, it's a classic move.
For sure. Yeah, he always has all his people saying to do that.
And he only does it because he probably doesn't have a prenup.
All right, we'll get into it at 6:30. Is my daughter old enough to stay home alone for an entire weekend? A dad wants our advice.
You better be 21.
We'll talk about it next in your BBM DM. Good morning. Let's start the show with the birthday boy, Jason Derulo.
Okay, Andy and Mike, what did you hear there?
I thought, I mean, they never stalled out. It was good pacing. There were no moments where the break just came to a halt, which often happens in Topic Grazing, which kept it fun and interesting. The co-host had a great brought it back moment with NyQuil chicken.
Yeah.
They got in a good tease to Dirty 30 and then the dad advice tease on the end too. So a good solid break.
Yeah, I loved it, and what your comment about the callback to NyQuil chicken was really strong, and it was especially landed, and they were able to keep it moving forward because the rest of the cast didn't go down that rabbit hole and belabor that. They let that punchline land, and they kept moving forward, and they did that all the way throughout. That's what helped keep that break moving. Mike?
That seemed more like stack content to me than classic Topic Grazing, because they took me on a journey. I was interested in everything, all tied together. It was a little random, but to your point, the host was able to tie it all together and kept my interest and kept the momentum through the break. And tying it back to the NyQuil chicken again was a brilliant move.
Yeah, and there was something relevant. They were talking about Adam Levine, and they used that as a tease for Dirty on the 30, which was coming up about 15 minutes from there. And then they also worked that into a tease for, they call it the BBMDM, Big Bay Mornings Direct Message, which is a listener situation that was coming up between that period of time. So they got a couple of teases in. There's a lot of content in there, but you never got lost in it. And there was some meat in all of it. There was some opinion, there was point of view. And to Mike's point, you're right. It's the host that makes that happen. That keeps it focused and keeps it on point. And yeah, there's a small difference between stacked content where you're balancing multiple topics and Topic Grazing where you're skimming off the surface in all of those. But I thought that was a really good example of that.
Yep.
So the difference in Topic Grazing and Purposeful Meandering can seem small to some people. Purposeful Meandering is when you tell a story by dropping connected breadcrumbs from one talking point to the next. It's one story, and you're leading the audience on a journey. Each leads them to the next thing, which ends in a planned outcome. So I'm going to play you an example of that. But first, I'm going to share with you some bullet points on how this came about with a show that I was working with a few years ago. It was the Jeff and Jen morning show. And we were brainstorming this. And in a brainstorming session, Jen said, I want to talk about this because my husband is weird. He brushes his teeth in an odd way. Okay, well, how are we going to bring that up? How are we going to get there? As Jerry Seinfeld would say, how did we get here? Why are we talking about this? Well, yeah, that's so random. So how do you get there? And the obvious is, what weird thing does your partner do that drives you crazy? Call us now. Here's our phone number, and off you go taking phone calls. Well, that's what we call low-hanging fruit. It's obvious. Any show can do that. It's not going to be very memorable. So we started brainstorming Purposeful Meandering, and we came up with this. Jeff has a friend who's getting married, and he just found out that her fiance is a monster. Okay, I'm in, right? I want to find out what is going on with that story. So Jeff started it, but Jeff is not where we're going with the storyline. We're starting the meandering here, and it has a purpose. It's going to get us to where we want to go. So what was it that Jeff's friend does Jeff's friend's fiance does that makes him a monster? Well, he eats cereal without milk. So what a freak. And Jeff just can't believe this. So they talk about that for a couple of, a few seconds. And Kelly's the other co-host on the show. She said, well, she needs to dump that guy because who does this kind of thing? This is not normal behavior. She needs to get out of this before it's too late. Nobody should marry someone who eats cereal without milk. Jen then tells Kelly that she has no room to comment because she never gets past 3 dates in her relationship. So now we're getting some banter that is revealing some character. You just learned something about Kelly's life. She's single. She bounces from one guy to the next. She always finds something wrong with the guy. So we're starting to get to know the characters a little bit, and we haven't taken very long. Kelly then goes off on the other two. She says, I've got the happiest relationship in the room. And she starts listing arguments that Jeff and Jen have been having with their partners, which is also character defining. And she ends with, and Jen, you're fighting with your husband right now because you don't like how he brushes his teeth. And we're in. So there's a purpose to where that meandering went. We ended up where we wanted to be, but we didn't start right there with the obvious. It pulls listeners into the storyline. So Mike, Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, key word there, purposeful, and the purposeful meandering. I mean, they had a plan and they moved towards that goal the whole way.
Had that been spontaneous and just they started talking about these random things and personal habits and whatnot, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. But it all tied together. It built some tension and some Tracy, as you point out, the character traits, revealing those, and again, it tied together. And it was prepped. They knew where they were going, and they got there. And I think that's one of the key things here is a lot of talent will stand by the idea of spontaneity, wanting to riff. Because candidly, they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to do the show prep. And candidly, the best prep shows are the ones that perform the best. And I think that's a big takeaway here.
And they hear breaks like this and they think it happened organically. They don't
Right.
know all the behind the scenes that went into it.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because a lot of shows don't want to go through prep in this kind of depth because they want that spontaneity, and they don't think they can capture that spontaneity if they know what's going to happen already. Talk about that.
Well, I believe in the adage of prep tightly and perform loosely. I think if you know where you're going ultimately, you can have some of those spontaneous moments on the way because you still have the goal in mind. You're still working backwards from where you know you want to go. If you have no idea where you're going, it's going to be very difficult to pull that together.
Yeah, it never hurts to have a backup plan, and there's nothing wrong with bailing on that backup plan if something organic does come up that's even better. I think that's what you meant by loosely,
Mhm.
Well, so imagine if you go to a play, if you go to New York and you're on Broadway, and the actors on the play have no idea what they're going to do in the script that night. They're just hoping for something good to happen. You go see Hamilton, and they kind of know what the story's about, and they're hoping that it all just comes together on stage. And some personalities are better at acting than others. I work with some that want to know every detail that's happening because they can trick themselves into pretending that this is the first time they've ever heard it and react naturally. That's a really good skill to develop. And the more you work at it, the better you're going to be able to react naturally in the moment and get in that headspace where it seems like it's the first time that you're hearing it and the first time that you're saying those words, even though it's deeply prepared. So I think that whole concept of prepare tight and perform loose is valid. I'm going to play a piece of audio for you. This is a short piece of audio from a show that I work with on Air One. It's Kareth and Ashton was gone this day, so it's just Kareth doing a solo break. But I was really proud of her because she took something that was ordinary that every show had access to, and she turned it into something that was personal, and she used purposeful meandering in it. The topic was that Heinz has just come out with a new shirt that was pre-stained. It has food stains on it, so you don't have to be embarrassed if you spill their ketchup or their mustard on your shirt. And so the obvious is that this new shirt that Heinz created is kind of weird. What do you think? But listen to how Kareth treated this.
It's United on Air One. We're Kareth and Ashton. I'm Kareth, and chances are you have somebody in your life who just wears black head to toe every single day. Their entire wardrobe, nothing but black. If you can't think of anybody off the top of your head, you know me. That is me. And that is an intentional thing that I have done. And I think the idea is when you see somebody who always wears black, that, maybe they just want to kind of streamline their wardrobe. They don't want to have to think about what they're wearing, so just black makes it easier. Or maybe there's somebody who just really likes the slimming effect that it creates. Here's the truth, okay? Here's the truth that a lot of us all black wardrobers will not tell you. The reason why we wear all black is because we cannot be trusted to wear any other color. We are sloppy eaters, okay? 20% of the stuff that's supposed to go in our mouth misses and ends up on our clothes. But here is good news for those of us who have wanted to venture out of that black wardrobe club, but we know we can't afford the investment in laundry detergent that it would take to do it. Heinz Ketchup is making a line of pre-stained clothing. Yes, clothing that intentionally looks like it has food stains all over it. Now, normally when these fashion crazes come out, with the jeans. Remember the jeans that look like you've been attacked by a shark? That was a thing for a minute. Or the shoes that look like just like marshmallows on your feet. Other people can enjoy that, and that's fine. But I'm not. This is one. Okay, I am fully invested in it. Let's make pre-stained clothing the fashion so we can finally wear something other than black.
Okay, guys, what did you think? And purposeful meandering.
Yeah, I mean, she figured out her angle to make it her own and do content only she could do. And then I assume she worked backwards from there, and that's where she came up with that good hook and funny, interesting content. And no one's going to be able to do it like that but her.
Revealed her character traits, and I agree totally. It could have been so much more ordinary had she just launched into the whole notion of Heinz and in pre-spilled clothing. But she took me on a journey, and that's what Purposeful Meandering does. It takes me on a journey without getting me stuck in dead ends and cul-de-sacs, and that's really kind of the difference as I hear it.
Yeah, and the story that she told wasn't about the clothing that Heinz brought out. She used one line from that story to make a point about, hey, finally, some help for those of us who are stuck only wearing black because we can't eat, because we're clumsy. So her hook was, you probably know someone who dresses mostly in black. If you don't, it's me. The reasons why people dress in black, here's the truth. And by the way, it's not obvious. She shows that she mostly wears black because she can't be trusted with other colors. And good news for those who want to wear colors, one line from the source, and she crafts her entire story around that one line. So now it becomes, hey, did you hear what Kareth said on the radio this morning? She's just like me. I can only wear black too. I'm a sloppy eater too. And to Mike's point, it's true. You prepare backwards. You start with the payoff, where you want to go with it, then find a hook that's going to get you there. And in the middle, you make that connection. So the goal is that we not lose attention in those first few seconds. And this is going to be the subject of an upcoming workshop where we talk about stronger hooks and how you get into content. But a lot of shows are worried about how I'm going to capture the listener's attention in those first few seconds. We coach it that we don't want to lose attention in the first few seconds. And then you have the time that you can gain attention by the story that you're going to tell. And that gives you a little bit more real estate to work with and takes some of that pressure off of cramming something down the listeners' throats right away. And then the other thing is preserving the outcome. Delayed resolution. You don't want to give it away. Don't want to give away what that payoff is until the last moment that you possibly can. The longer you delay the resolution, the more powerful that payoff's going to be. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, how can we do this with a short talk window? You can do this in 2 minutes, as Kareth just showed, and you can do it on a solo show, right, guys?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. We just heard a solo show. That was essentially a solo break right there. And it's very easy to do. And 2 minutes is plenty of time, particularly if you've taken the time ahead of time to prepare and you know where the outcome is going. And then you work back from it with the hook and then weave the story. But one of the things I do a lot of morning show research. And one of the things that comes back time and time again with shows that struggle is they talk about a lot of things that aren't interesting to me, or they waste my time. And a lot of that is topic grazing. It's unconnected, random information that doesn't tell a story that goes on and on and on. But with just a few simple tweaks that we've talked about today, purposeful meandering is a much better alternative.
So
yeah, it's actually easier to do on a solo show because you're not having to collaborate with anybody. On it in the planning stage, and doing it on a team show takes a really strong host.
Yeah. So as long as you can get into the conversational mode in your delivery and presentation, and that can be hard to do when you're on solo. That's one of the hardest things. Another reason I like that break that Kareth did there. She said it's so conversational. She sounded like she was warm, she was friendly. She was sounded like she was talking to her best friend over coffee. Through the entire, didn't rush. She didn't rush through it. She got a lot of content in. I think it was 2 minutes and 8 seconds or so. Exceptional example of purposeful meandering. So we do have an air check this week. It's from Mark Wesley, who is a follower in the UK. He was on the first workshop and sent an air check along and said, "Okay, guys, be nice to me, be good to me. Don't beat me up too much, but I'll take my poison." So we're going to play Mark's air check, and then we'll make a few comments and give him some feedback.
And Paris Hilton has hired 2 security guards to watch over her $2 million engagement ring. Are they just going to follow her around looking at the engagement ring, or are they going to look at her as well? Oh, check her out. Are you looking at my ring?
Okay, time to play Remember the Time. All 4 of these things happened in the 1 year. Can you figure out what year it was? Milli Vanilli had this song. When Harry Met Sally came out, starring Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan.
I'll have what she's had.
Sure had this hit song.
If I could turn back time.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out.
It's not that great.
Why?
I Shrunk the Kids.
Okay, what year was it? First correct answer wins.
The wait is over. The summer of cricket is here on Foxtel's new dedicated Fox Cricket channel. This Sunday, exclusive to Foxtel, is the first ever cricket game broadcast live in 4K definition. So if you want to watch cricket like never before, get Foxtel today with no lock-in contract. Call 131 767. That's 131 767. Are you ready to get into the Christmas spirit? $1,000 for the vast Christmas lights display. Registrations close on the 30th of November. Online voting starts the 3rd of December. Winner announced the 19th of December. Go to 4cc.com.au for Gladstone Regional Council Lights Up 2018.
I might have to get you to help me next Christmas.
What, make the puddings?
Yes, I've got that many to make.
That'll be exciting. You got an apron for me?
I certainly have. A nice apron, yes. Because I play the ukulele.
Did you bring the ukulele in today?
No.
Oh, the rain, we could add some real fun.
Don't get too drunk on the rum.
Wow, there's rum?
There's lots of rum in it.
It's Mark this morning, and a butcher who accidentally got locked inside a freezer in London says he was saved by a sausage. Do you believe this? Chris McCabe became trapped in a walk-in freezer at his shop when the wind blew the door shut. I don't really want to ever be stuck in a freezer. No. Sue, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, I'm excellent today.
Beautiful day. Where are you calling from?
In Gladstone.
Now, for the Harvey Norman $25 voucher.
I'm thinking 1986.
That's right. Yes. Hey, congratulations. You've got it. The $25 Harvey Norman voucher. How good is that?
Oh, that is fantastic. Yes, really good.
You're going to come pick it up today?
Oh, yes, too right.
Oh, well, I better get spruced up then.
I better too.
Before you go, Sue, what radio station do you listen to?
Oh, 4CC, of course.
You have a great day. Hope to see you in the station. We'll give you a guided tour. 7:49 in excess. On your station, 4CC, 7:53 now. Exile, Kiss You All Over. On your station, 4CC, Exile, Kiss You All Over at 7:56 now with Mark on this brand new day, Friday. And your chance to win a double pass to the Hotter Than Hell tour valued at $140. Now, we'll do that after 8:30 this morning. Great bands playing there. Grinspoon, Killing Heidi, Jebediah and Super Jesus, part of the clue this morning. On your station, 4CC, Elton John, Rocket Man, and news, they've found water on Mars. They've found water on Mars, but as Bobby said, when are they going to find beer? Chris Lees from The Observer, good morning to you.
Hi, mate. How are you?
Pretty good. Well, thank you.
No worries, mate. My pleasure.
Make sure you go out and buy The Observer today. Lots of great stories. Chris Lees from the Gladstone Observer. On your station, 4CC, Martin Gay, sexual healing on this brand new day, Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Grom, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. How's it going there this morning, mate?
Fantastic, Grom. Having a great morning, giving you all these prizes away. It's fantastic.
Great. It's a great thing to give, mate. Pretty good day here at Agnes Water, but rock in. But, Mark, you have a great day and keep up that great music, mate. No better way waking up to 4CC, mate. And you too, Mark. Cheers, mate.
The words just fly out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know this one? Dragon, still in love with you?
Definitely, mate. Love it. Nothing like Mark Hunter, mate, on a Friday morning.
Dragon on your station, 4CC.
Thank you, mate. Bye, Mark.
Okay. So there's Mark Wesley. Mike, Andy, what do you think?
Well, I think it sounds like Mark prepares. I did hear some effort into the show, some thought ahead of time. One of the things I did like was his use of audio, and the time capsule type feature there is very quick and succinct. Used just enough to make it work and to give the clue. And I liked his running commentary there. I'll nitpick a little bit about some things that I seem to be a little touchy. The Exile song is from 1978, so I don't know if it needed to be pre-sold and back-sold. Another crutchy thing I noticed was on this brand new day. Handshakes with listeners, that was another thing I heard. A little difficult. When you get a listener on the air, you don't want to be abrupt. You definitely want to make what I call ear contact with them. But sometimes that can get a little boring. It can be a little too long-winded, where you're spending too much time. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? You having a good day? That sort of thing. So I think we're right on the cusp of whether that was enough or too much. So those were some initial thoughts.
Yeah, and along those same lines, good voice and delivery, short and sweet. I like starting with the Paris Hilton clip. Liked the guest of the year. I thought that was compelling. The personality does come through, even though it's some short, sweet clips. On the caller interaction, I like that. I would shorten those and get rid of any of the unnecessary "how are you doing" type stuff. That way you can use even more, because I thought those worked well. I really liked the caller and how he tied that into that one tune. Just a note on an Aircheck demo, I probably wouldn't include a live read in a commercial. I would do that in a separate demo, because it really gets in the way. And if you just took those out, just clip those two things out, it's immediately a better Aircheck.
Guys, did you think that there was a hint of a little bit too many audio drops or too much production effects?
That didn't jump out at me.
Didn't strike me that way necessarily, no.
Okay, it did me when he played the game, the guest of the year. It seemed I don't think that you need an audio drop for every one of those elements.
Oh yeah.
That kind of ran
Yeah.
together and it overpowered his personality. So if you use one drop, I would rather use one drop in that and lengthen it with like that. When Harry Met Sally, play a little bit more of that drop, and then just mention the song and the other things from pop culture in there, which would make that a little easier to listen to. I've got higher radar for overproduction than most people do. And also, by the way, a game like that doesn't necessarily need a winner. You can play what year was it when this happened, and then go into a stop set, announce the answer coming out. And you get people playing along vicariously along with the game, even if there's not a prize, and you don't have to put a winner on the air for that.
It's a fun way to tease a song too, kind of like the example you did in the last tease workshop.
Yeah, it's awesome. The other thing I would mention is in a couple of the breaks, he was relating stories of things that were happening in the news. I would go with fewer facts. And a little bit more perspective and a little bit more point of view. Instead of telling a story about the guy who got stuck in the freezer and then having a clever line at the end, start with your clever line and fold the source into your story. Make the story uniquely yours instead of just passing along something that happened with someone else. But I liked it. I think Mark has a really good command. He sounds confident. He has good energy. He doesn't talk too quickly, but he has good energy and forward momentum. I would like to hear a little bit more colorful language at times, where I think you can dress it up and really sell what it is that you are talking about, but really smooth and very conversational. And I found it to be engaging. I liked what I heard.
Comes across likable too.
Yeah, he sure does.
Yes.
Yeah. So if anybody has questions, you can type them in the chat box. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can type. Any questions you have about purposeful meandering, topic grazing, about the workshops, about anything regarding personality radio, we'll stay on and answer those questions as long as those questions come in. Most of the chat right now is correcting the year 1986. The year is 1989, not 1986. Okay, yeah. Although it might be different in the UK.
True.
Things are released differently. Yeah.
Right. So if you got any questions, you can type them in right now. Chuck Taylor says, good morning from DFW. Glad to see Andy Meadows.
Hey, yeah. Hi, Chuck.
Chuck's on. Used to work with Andy.
Yep.
So those of you who don't know Mike and Andy, Mike and I have been working together for going on 5 years now. We competed together against each other in San Diego, where one of us had the #1 radio station every ratings period. And he drove me crazy because he took a country station in a market like San Diego and was able to make it #1. Mostly because he didn't look at it as a country station. He looked at it as a mass appeal station that happened to play country music. And that's something that we take into our practice. I did the same thing with my hot AC station. Yep. We didn't look at it as being confined by the boundaries, but we competed against each other for a long time and then joined forces about 5 years ago. And Andy was the operations manager and the VP of programming for a group of stations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and all through that part of Texas. I was a client, and I identified a lot of traits that I thought would make him a really great talent coach and consultant. And we got together a couple of years ago too. So this is our group. Question, what is the most common mistake someone makes when trying to purposefully meander? Great question.
Well, the first mistake would be not to prep. The first mistake is to think of purposeful meandering as riffing as, yeah, we'll see where this goes. We'll just kind of throw it out there and discuss it. That's the biggest mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the desire to be organic, and want the spontaneity to happen, and feeling like that can't happen if they're prepared, which, like we went over earlier, is not the case.
I don't want to rat out a show that I work with, but it was a show that when I was programming a sports station, and guys were convinced that they were better off when they just went, and that was where but one of them said, we just riff, man, we're great when we riff. We actually took some audio. I said, okay, give me some of the breaks you thought over this week that were great, that where you riffed, and then show me ones where we prepared a little bit. And the funny thing is, when all the ones that he riffed back together, when he listened to them back, when we all listened to them together, you could see their faces just kind of, oh wow, that wasn't nearly as good as we thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've got another point, because I've had this come up a lot too, with team shows that only prepare separately because they feel like if I'm handling this part of the prep, I'm handling this part of the prep, and if I share what I'm preparing with her or him, then it won't be organic on the air, and it won't. I've seen that work sometimes. Most of the time, that does not work. You have to also collaborate.
I will tell you, the only show I've ever seen that really work with was the Kid Craddock show, because Kid was such a great host, and he knew the cast members so well, and he set them up to succeed every time. And he didn't want.
And you have to be very unselfish to make that work, and he was unselfish.
Yeah, and Kid was a relentless prepper. Not so much in compiling information and gathering and hunting, but thinking through how something was going to come off on the air. He was absolutely brilliant in that way. And he made every one of those cast members sound better because of the way he set them up. But that's the only time I've seen it really work effectively.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point too. I mean, it comes back to prep, and I think that when we talk prep, sometimes a lot of folks are shaking their heads, going, "Oh my God, this is paperwork. This is drudgery. This is like doing my taxes." And if that's the way you're viewing prep, you're not doing it right. I mean, prep should be a creative, fun, freewheeling brainstorming process in which you get to create this great content that then you go and execute on the air loosely.
And everybody's process is going to be slightly different, built around whenever you're the most creative. Like some people are more creative in the afternoon or the evening, and they're going to do some of their prep then. Some people are can do their best stuff at 3 a.m. as they're preparing for the show. So just don't feel like it's going to be the exact same for everybody.
Yeah, Andy had made the point earlier about the shows who don't prep together, and they keep content from each other, so they don't know what's going on. That usually comes with a really selfish host who doesn't want the other personalities to know what they're talking about. And a lot of times they hide behind the excuse of, I want to get a spontaneous response from them. But it's kind of a form of bullying, where a lot of times that host wants to be the star of the show and take these people by surprise, and they aren't prepared to have a great response or a great line. And they subconsciously, I believe, think it makes them look better.
It's sabotage, really, is what it is, because that person may not know where, what's coming or where they're expected to go. We work with a show in a market where that used to happen all the time. Well, I can't tell her what I'm going to say because her spontaneous reaction is so much better. But then the host would do it, and the co-host would be thrown off and would look silly or not prepared, or was awkward. So yeah, I think that is a form of sabotage sometimes.
And sometimes it's because the host has what they think is a really good line at the end, and they don't want to. They're so married to it, they don't want anybody else to have the line, and you can't do that. Even if you've written something great or prepared something great, you can save it for another break. It doesn't,
How many times have you gone through a break and turned off the mics, and as soon as you do, somebody says, "Oh, I had a great story that would have hit. I just thought of it. It's too late now." It could all been taken care of if you talked about it beforehand. That way everyone can be personally prepared for it. Next question is from Truss Wiggins. And he asks, what advice would you give prep-wise to a newer show where the hosts are still learning each other's personalities.
Walk before you run.
Yeah, that's the best piece of advice right there. Don't try to do too much.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that you can work on is a news show in that situation too. And it's there's, I believe, a webinar on demand on the website, but talk about building your 5-star character brand. And one of the exercises we do with most of our shows is what we call the character profile exercise, where we actually compile the different character traits for each person on the show. And once you actually go through that exercise and get to know one another, so much better, and you actually commit that to paper, it's much easier to prep because you know where each personality is coming from.
Yeah, identifying and defining the roles is another key part. I think.
Yeah, and to clarify, roles are who does what and who's responsible for what and who's playing what. It's the position. If a sports analogy, it's the position that you play, and the character is how you play the position.
Right.
And with those, if the hosts and co-hosts don't know each other very well, that character branding exercise is really valuable because you start to learn things about each other and often about yourself that you can exploit on the air and really develop a character brand out of that. Iob says, hi, Tracy, Mike, and Andy. What is the best way for a show producer to prep topic arcs or journeys for hosts? Or should this part be left to the hosts to do it for themselves?
I think that depends on the show, doesn't it?
Yeah, it depends on the role of the producer. I'm a big believer in collaboration, and I think if you've got a good team and everyone can contribute, I think that the prep process should include brainstorming from everybody. I don't know that one person is necessarily or should be necessarily responsible for a story arc or anything like that. I think that heck, we do this with our shows all the time. We'll brainstorm with them, and some really good stuff comes out of that because everybody's coming with a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, and playing to each individual person's strengths. Like if somebody is really plugged into a certain thing, I mean, let them run with that, but don't task somebody to come up with. What you don't want is somebody throwing the work off on somebody else.
Right.
It's pretty easy to do if you go into it with what we call for the show mentality, where nobody is so attached to this is my idea, and because it's my idea, I want to cram it down everybody's throat. It might be your idea, but somebody else may have a better idea for how you treat that on the air or where that goes. And that's where collaboration comes in. And if you can create that atmosphere, that best idea wins, and the good of the show a rising tide lifts all boats. If we do the right thing for the show, every individual on the show is going to benefit from that, and their profile is going to become greater as well. So, and Mike's right. Some shows, some hosts want the producer to do more and to kind of line it up for them and be the talking head. I think Ryan Seacrest's show pretty much works that way, where Ryan comes in and he's going to read what somebody has created for him and put a little bit of personality on it. And other shows, you've got a host that is really good at show prep and really knows what they want to do. I work with the show at WKLB in Boston, Jonathan and Ayla. And Jonathan is a show prep machine. He does most of it. And they've got a great producer, Jim Clerkin. And Jim is terrific, but he doesn't have to go gather a lot of the content because Jonathan spends most of the day prepping the next day's show. And Jonathan has learned to share that prep and to brainstorm and collaborate with his co-hosts to bring more color into what he has prepared. So you're right. It is different with every show. Well, we look for every show's formula. What's the right formula for your show? What's the right way to do prep that works for you, that is usually based on some solid prep fundamentals?
Yeah, and if you're a host, a really good way to create a good creative environment for brainstorming is to let the other staff, let their ideas win sometime. If it feels like it's always the host that has the final say and the call on all of that stuff, it's not going to be a very good creative environment where good ideas flow.
Yeah, when it comes to prep too, it's just like exercise. It's what are you going to do every day? What is something that you're really going to, put some effort and time into Andy said it before, some people are more creative in the afternoon. Some folks like to plot a lot out right after the show. It really does depend. But once you find that formula that Tracy was talking about, it's show prep can be a lot of fun, and it shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah. Mike and I are working with Y100 in San Antonio, Frito and Katie, and they are so in touch with each other. That there's no tug of war for who gets credit for this or whose idea this is. They can tell each other that's a bad idea, let's do it like this instead. And it is so creative and so productive, and you can hear it in the success that show has had over a relatively short period of time in San Antonio. They've only been together there for a number of months, and they're already just flying through the ratings month by month. It's an exceptional show that is completely unselfish in how they approach it.
Totally collaborative. I mean, unlike some shows where one person does the bulk of the work, that is one where all the heavy lifting is shared between the two of them, and they really do a great job.
So if anybody has any questions, last call for questions. There's no more in the queue. If you have any, now would be the time to do it. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up and move on. Oh, here comes one now. Kelly and Wood say, how much prep should be done the day before? Is it better to have a framework of and see where a break is going to go, or should it be regimented? I'm guessing it's based on the show.
I always say 80% is my kind of going number. Like if you can have 80% of the show prepared before, not the day of, like day of, you're only doing about 20% of it is a pretty good estimate. And that gives you leeway. Now, granted, like you may have something really big come up that changes that, but that's a good general idea.
Yeah, I think ahead of time is much better. You can always move and rearrange. It's like an NFL team playing, right? They've got a pretty good game plan. They've figured out what they're going to do on Sunday, but there's always places to rearrange and to improvise and to call audibles. And there's very few things that happen the day of that you really need to move around. A lot of topics, I think we talked about this last time in teasing, a lot of topics are actually better if you take a day for the audience to get more familiar with it, and you spend some time actually deciding on a treatment for it rather than just reporting on it as a news story.
Yeah, you don't get a medal for being first to be on air with something.
We're not breaking news.
There's no award for that.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to talk about Adam Levine the next morning after it happens. If you wait a day and develop a content, more people know about it, and it's just as relevant. It's just a day later, especially if you're making a story out of it. There's a seminar that you should check out about creating a prep system. It's called Prep Like a Pro. If you go to either tjohnsonmediagroup.com, you can watch that on demand for $9.95. If you're a member of Insiders at insidersradionetwork.com, you can watch it anytime on demand for free. It walks you through the steps of how to set up a system so you're always preparing your show about a week in advance, and you have all the time slots filled, and then your daily prep on things that are happening today that have changed. Something happens in the market that you want to change it. It becomes, as Mike says, less like going to the dentist. And it can be much more creative by just working a little bit further ahead, which goes into the next question from Tommy. It says, based on what you said about sharing prep content with your co-host, we all wear multiple hats, and it's a little hard to sit and have a prep meeting. So how can I execute better sharing ideas for the next day to my co-host?
Google Docs.
We have technology.
Technology. That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, that's there's so many tools that we didn't have before. Heck, Zooms. I don't care if you're in the same town. You know what I mean? Or FaceTime calls, or just talking on the phone, texting. What have you.
A lot of shows I work with have a working document, and you can do this through. It can be, Google Docs. It can be. We like a software program called Trello. That is a collaborative tool that everybody can. It's card-based, and you can move things around. You don't necessarily have to sit down with somebody and prep out the entire show one-on-one. A lot of this can be done, in a collaboration set, and use the technology we've got.
Yeah, use the technology, but there's nothing that can replace that eye contact and one-to-one communication and collaboration. So if you can't do it after the show each day and spend 15 minutes to get on the same page for the next morning, come in earlier the next day. Come into your show 15 minutes earlier, 30 minutes earlier. Some shows come in an hour early to really get on the same page and go over the Eagles performed the same songs for 50 years. They sing one of these nights in Hotel California every night. And every time they perform, they still get together 30 minutes before their performance. And they get on the same page with what they call their circle of fear. What's different about tonight? What do we need to review? Has anybody got any ideas to change anything today? So the circle of fear, I think, could be a real thing too. So find some time, even if it's just 15 minutes before the show, an extra 15 minutes to spend time in person.
Well, and in reality, what you find, like, as we talk about, because we talk about how important prep is, it sounds like to everybody that we're adding a lot of extra hours to their day. And in reality, when you figure out your system, it's about the same amount of work. Is what you find, because you've learned how to manage it better, you know. So you're not going from working a 10-hour day to a 12 or 14-hour day. It's the same.
Right.
Yeah. A couple of comments and we'll wrap this up. Jesse says this is great content and asks, did you all prep this session like you were a morning show?
Somewhat, yeah.
The answer is yes. We all knew the audio that was coming up. We prepped it. And we didn't rehearse the conversation, but everybody was prepared. They knew exactly what was going to happen on today's show. And we were able to perform loosely because we had prepared tight over the last couple of days. And finally, Chuck, a personal message for you, Andy. Chuck says, this is a great session. Andy, let's grab a beer and catch up.
Definitely. I'm just down the road from you. I'm in Frisco now, so I'm even closer to you, Chuck. So
there you go.
Thank you for coming to the workshop today. Tell all your friends about it. Make sure you click the button to subscribe to the channel. And if you have any suggestions for a future workshop, you can type them in the chat box, or you can send me an email, tracy@tjohnsonmediagroup.com, TRACY@tjohnsonmediagroup.com. Thanks very much. Watch your email, and we'll see you at the next workshop.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.